Here's something most practitioners won't tell you. Not all veneers are created equal. If you're new here, my name is Larry Doherty, a cosmetic dentist here in San Antonio with 17 years of experience. And before you part ways with your hard-earned money for veneers, I need you to watch this entire video, because what I'm about to show you could be the difference between getting a smile you're proud of and one you'll regret every time you look in the mirror. All right, let me start with something you've probably noticed but never really thought about. When someone smiles and their teeth look like they could light up a room, and not in a good way, there's something specific happening there. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The person walks into a room, they smile, and suddenly all you can focus on is a wall of brightness. And you see this with celebrities all the time. Take this guy, for example. He's had his teeth done before, but when he smiles, there's something that just feels off about it. It's not that his teeth are ugly, they're clearly expensive, but something about them just doesn't look natural. You see, here's something interesting about natural teeth. They're not just a solid color. They have tiny variations in brightness and tone. They're slightly translucent at the edges. Maybe have subtle gradations, a bit warmer near the gum line, slightly lighter at the biting edge. And it's those nuances that give teeth depth and make them look like they're actually belong in someone's mouth. And so what's really the problem? If they're too white, too polished, too flat, they look cheap. And it's also true the other way around. When someone gets veneers that are just one flat shade of white, they reflect light like plastic instead of natural enamel. There's no depth or character to it. So how do you avoid this? First, choose a shade with gradation. Your veneers should be lighter at the edges and warmer near the gum line. This mimics how natural teeth actually look. Second, ask your dentist or lab to add subtle characterization, those natural textures and translucencies that make your teeth look real. Your teeth should complement your skin tone, your age, even your personality. A 25-year-old and a 55-year-old shouldn't have the exact same shade of white. That's not how nature works. And that's exactly what we focus on here in our practice in San Antonio. We'll walk you through every step of the process and make sure your veneers look natural, not like something out of a toothpaste commercial. So if you want to book a consultation with us, just click the link in the description below. But you see, that's not the only thing that makes cheap veneers look bad. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine someone wearing designer glasses, expensive, high-end frames, but they don't fit their face. Maybe they're too big or too angular for their features. Yeah, they might be beautiful glasses on their own, but on that person, they just throw off the whole look. So I see this happen with veneers all the time. Someone comes in, they spent good money on their teeth, but when they smile, something just feels wrong. It's not that the veneers are poorly made. It's not even that they're the wrong color, but for some reason, the smile just doesn't match the person. So what's going on here? Well, you have to realize your teeth aren't separate from your face. In fact, they're part of your entire facial structure. A person with a round, soft face shouldn't have sharp, angular teeth. Meanwhile, someone with delicate features shouldn't have oversized, chiclet-style veneers. Why does this happen? You see, cheap veneer jobs often use a one-size-fits-all approach. They don't take the time to customize the shape and the proportion to fit you specifically. Every tooth ends up the same size, too square, too long, and the smile starts to look too cartoonish. The solution to this is very simple. You just ask the dentist for a digital mock-up before any prep work is done. There's several ways I like to get this process going with patients. One of the first things I'll usually do with a patient that's considering veneers is I'll think of a similar case I've done that reminds me of them and their particular situation at that moment. And I'll show them before and afters of a similar patient, usually similar age, similar dental problem that they started with. And seeing a case that looks kind of like them usually inspires patients and assures them that we know what we're doing. Another thing I like to do is do mock-ups directly on people's teeth to show them what small changes we can do to some of their teeth so they can see with their own eyes what the possibilities are. This also gives me a chance to show them like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I know what you're saying to me. We are communicating with each other. We understand each other. I know what you want. It's a great way to build relationships with patients by showing them that I know what they're talking about. In some complicated cases, I'll have my lab technician create a mock-up for me that we'll modify in the patient's mouth or try in to show them. I've experimented with software too, where I can mock up teeth or show patient simulations. And I find usually with crowding or teeth in the wrong space, it's a great way to show patients what's physically possible with moving teeth around. But with veneer simulations, the software is not quite there yet. but it's getting there. And I'm really excited about the possibilities. So it's 2025 right now. The software to show patients veneer simulations is better than it was a year ago, but it's still not as great as putting something on people's teeth. But I wouldn't be surprised if in a year now or less, we can show simulations that look just as lifelike as actually doing simulations on people's teeth. But it sure is hard to beat putting something on someone's teeth and showing them what's possible. So I love doing that for patients, and it's always fun. It's always exciting to take before and after photos of mock-ups. Those are always exciting moments for patients to see possibilities. Love doing that. I love doing mock-ups. It lets you see pretty much what your teeth are gonna look like with veneers before anything's actually cemented to your teeth. We can't really mimic what porcelain will look like until we actually put it on teeth, but mock-ups can really take us really close to the end. And if something doesn't look right, if the shape is off, or if they don't match your face, we can make adjustments on that before it's too late. Because once the veneers are on, they're on. And you can't just peel them off and start over, without consequence. So it's very important that the planning is done correctly. Now here's where things get interesting, because sometimes you'll see someone with veneers and at first glance, everything looks fine. The color looks natural, the shape seems to fit their face, and from a distance, you wouldn't really know that they had any work done. But then you get a little closer, maybe you're having a conversation with them face to face, and that's when you notice it. I always tell people, if you want to spot cheap veneers, don't just look at the teeth, look at the gums, because they'll give away the quality instantly. The problem is poor gum line contour and margins. High quality veneers have margins that are perfectly flush with the gum line. They're placed with precision, so there's no gap, no ledge, nothing that disrupts the natural flow. But cheap veneers often has visible edges. Sometimes the gums look inflamed because the margins weren't prepared properly. Sometimes the contour is just completely off. That gum line frames your smile. And if that frame is uneven or poorly fitted, the entire result looks artificial. And so that's something to look for. When you're trying to get work done at a practice, make sure to check for before and after images of the people they've done veneers on before. If the gum line isn't properly contoured, get out as fast as you can. It's excellent when your lab technician understands biology and understands when they make the veneers to leave room for the gums to breathe. A lot of time in the process of preparing veneers, impressing for veneers, scanning for veneers, the gums get pushed out of the way. And I've seen many veneer cases on patients when they're done where the technician made the veneers go way too close to the gums because they got that model or that impression of the day of the preparations. They assumed that the gums were going to stay flattened like they were on the prep day, and then when the final veneers go on, they're too close to the gums, and so the person has like no gums visible when they're smiling, and it's because the veneers are just too bulky. The technician didn't leave room for the gums to breathe back down in between the teeth, the papillas, and you get an unnatural looking smile. And you can only really achieve that great looking papilla when your technician understands that the gums will fill that space back in. So, those are things that, gosh, it's hard for a patient to be asking a dentist about. Hey, does your technician understand biology, etc.? Now, here's where most people get tripped up when they're evaluating veneers. Because up until this point, we've been talking about things you can see pretty clearly: color, shape, gum margins. But this next one is pretty subtle. Most people can't even articulate what's wrong. Let me show you what I mean. Let's look at my man here, Tom Cruise, one of the biggest movie stars on the planet. He's had his teeth redone multiple times over the years, millions of dollars spent on cosmetic work. And his teeth look good now, right? They're white, they're shaped well. From a technical standpoint, they're well done veneers. But if you really look at his smile, and I mean you really look at it, there's something that pulls your eye. You'll notice he's got one tooth right in the middle of his face instead of two central incisors lining up symmetrically with the center of his nose. Now, most people have never consciously noticed this, but your brain picks up on it anyway. It's like when a picture frame is hanging slightly crooked on a wall. You might not be able to explain exactly what feels off, but something just doesn't sit right. And no matter how many times Tom has had cosmetic work done, because that one fundamental thing was never addressed, his smile always has that subtle, something's not right feeling. Now, obviously this is a minor cosmetic issue. And to be honest, for most people, it wouldn't really matter. It just so happens that Mr. Cruise has thousands of photos of him smiling on the internet, which is why this gets scrutinized a bit. But for the sake of finding a real-life example, let's analyze this. So what's actually happening here? Well, the veneers don't match the midline or lip flow. Technically, your two front teeth should ideally line up with the center of your face, and the overall curve of your smile should follow the natural line of your lower lip. But cheap veneers often ignore this completely. They just slap on a row of teeth without considering how they align with your face. And even if the veneers themselves look decent, if they don't match your midline or lip flow, the smile will have a tendency to look a little cheap. And this is exactly why I always tell people not to just go to any practice that does veneers. You actually have to find someone who understands facial aesthetics and not just dental work as a standalone thing. And that's what we do here at our practice here in San Antonio. So if you're in the area and you want to have a chat on what we could do for you, click the link in the description below to book a consultation with me. All right, here's a question most people never think to ask their dentist before getting veneers. How thick are these gonna be? And honestly, most people don't even know they should be asking this question. Because when you're sitting in the consultation chair, you're thinking about color, shape, how white you want them, all that aesthetic stuff. But the thickness probably isn't even on your mind at that point. That is until you get them. And suddenly you realize your lips feel different and they don't quite close the way they used to. But you just chalk it up to not being used to the veneers. So that's when you look at your profile in the mirror and when you notice that your upper lip is sitting further forward than before. I've had patients come in and say, I don't know how to explain this, but my face feels different. And when I look at their veneers, I can see exactly what happened. It's like when you get a dent in your car, and instead of actually fixing the panel, you just keep adding layers of paint and filling over it. Can you do that? Whatever. Sure, from a distance it might look okay, but you end up with a thicker, uneven surface that changes the entire contour of that panel. That's exactly what happens when veneers are bulky or over-contoured. Veneers should replace enamel thickness, not add to it. But when they're built up too thick, your lips will protrude, your facial profile changes, and your teeth will look and feel chunky. So that's just a good thing to keep in mind before you walk into someone's office and get that procedure done. But you know what the biggest mistake of all is? Well, let me explain. I've had patients come in showing me photos of celebrity smiles, and they would point to them and say, I want this. Make my teeth look like theirs. I've even had them say, make my teeth look like your hygienist, your assistant, like they want me to copy somebody that's sitting right next to them. And I get it. When we're getting work done, we don't really have a frame of reference on what it would look like on us. But here's what I always ask them. Do you want a beautiful smile or do you want their smile? Because there's a huge difference. A 30-year-old influencer and a 60-year-old executive shouldn't have the exact same veneers. Their lifestyles are different. Their facial structures are different. Their skin tones are different. Even their personalities are different. And when you try to force one person's aesthetic on another person's face, it just doesn't work. So what's the real problem with cheap veneers? They ignore the person behind the smile. They chase the Hollywood white look without considering who's actually wearing it. There's a huge difference between good veneers and great veneers. Good veneers are passable. They fix imperfections and that's it. But great veneers, they consider your age, your complexion, your lip line, and even your personality. But at the end of the day, the best smile looks like you, just refreshed. So while it's helpful to bring reference photos of smiles that fit your overall vibe, you should also ask your dentist, what type of veneers look best on me? Not for celebrities, not for Instagram models, for you. Because natural, timeless aesthetics age far better than trends. Remember, you're not just getting a smile, you're getting your smile. And it should look and feel like an enhanced version of you, not someone else entirely. But here's the thing. A lot of people come to me thinking they need veneers, when really, they don't even know if that's the thing they need right now. Maybe the only issue is color. Maybe years of coffee have dulled them, or there's some deep staining that won't come out with regular whitening strips. That's why I always recommend exploring professional whitening first before committing to veneers, especially core whitening, which can handle stains that most other treatments just leave behind. I actually made a whole video about it, breaking down some pretty surprising facts, like how it works on stains people thought were permanent, and why the results can last essentially forever if you maintain them properly. So if you're trying to decide whether you actually need veneers or you just really need a good whitening treatment, check out that video next. I'll put it on the screen now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.